Hello, everybody. Welcome back to RYGR Sports. My name is Logan,
And I'm Yash.
and in today's video, we're going to be, going over some trade ideas for the upcoming NBA trade deadline, which I believe is the first week of February, one of the days. So it's coming up real soon, and some of the contenders in the NBA are going to want to add some pieces to their roster to make a run at the championship. A couple of those teams, the Knicks, the Lakers, teams that are hovering around 500, teams that are at the top of their conference that just want to get better. The trade deadline is always the time of the year where big moves are always made, and maybe some rebuilding teams want to get rid of some big contracts and build their roster a little bit. So we're each going to give you three trades that we believe would make sense at the trade deadline this year. For my first trade, obviously the big story today was Giannis wants out. Giannis Antetokounmpo has told the Bucks that it is time for a trade, and I think a lot of the contenders in the NBA are going to be calling Milwaukee and offering all these huge packages of players for Giannis. The specific trade that I would think would make sense is Giannis to the Knicks. Now, the Knicks are not that great this year. I think they were better they honestly were better last year. I mean, obviously we're only a little more than halfway through the season, but the Knicks were playing better last year than this year, so I do think they need to make a move at the trade deadline. And I think adding Giannis would absolutely shake up the entire NBA, and I think the Knicks would, soar to the front of the finals, odds and favorites. I think New York definitely has a lot of pieces to give up for Giannis. The ones that come to mind are, Josh Hart, OG Anunoby. Obviously, they have first round picks. If I can make a full trade for Giannis, obviously it's going to take one hell of a package because Giannis is, arguably a top five player in the NBA. So I would think that the Knicks would give up something like Josh Hart and OG and maybe a first and a second. A package like that gives the Bucks, some pieces that could give them a lot of minutes and help contribute to some wins, maybe some long-term pieces. I know the Knicks have Tyler Kolek, who's a young point guard. Deuce McBride is a great shooter who could be an asset in that trade. But I think what Milwaukee is going to be looking for in this trade is some pieces that they can play right now. And I think OG and Josh Hart are two very, very quality players. Obviously, Giannis is a once in a generation type player, but I think the Knicks do need to make a move like this to really, if we really want to believe in them that they can make a run this year. I think going after Giannis now would definitely make sense for them.
Yeah, so like you said, you brought up Giannis wanting to get traded. Obviously, that's the news at the NBA right now. Um, I personally think Giannis would probably be a better fit in Golden State. Now, I don't really know how Golden State would be able to pull that like something like that off. It's obviously really difficult. Giannis is obviously one of the top five, and at certain points, I mean, he's an MVP caliber player, right? He's one of the best in the NBA. So trying to get a player like that to pair up with unquestioned the greatest shooter of all time, right? Obviously, they have other players that are really good with what's his name? I'm trying to think. Draymond Green is obviously still on the team. Um, I think the Warriors would really benefit, especially now with Jimmy Butler being out for the season. I believe he's out with the ACL injury.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, I feel like that would really fill in a gap. That would really make them dominant on offense and on defense. Because, I mean, Giannis has one thing that you can't really teach. He hustles back and forth all court. Now, he does occasionally complain about free throws a little bit too much, but I feel like a lot of superstars do that. I see Luka doing it. I see LeBron doing it. I see SGA, and I see all these players doing it. So I don't really think that's that big of an issue. But you know, a player like Giannis could completely turn the Warriors, who are kind of a mediocre team right now, into a top 3 or 4 contender in the entire NBA. Right? Like with Giannis, boom. I mean, I personally think that they'd probably be the best team in the NBA just with how Steph Curry's been playing, these last couple weeks, and how they've really played together as a team. But as for my next trade, I I haven't really been a big fan of DeAndre Ayton being on the Lakers. I didn't think he was that great of a signing. I mean, he was a great player for the first couple seasons in Phoenix. I still think he's a pretty decent player. The main problem with me that I have with him is that he struggles to kind of hustle back down court. He gets kind of lazy sometimes. He's just kind of standing there, and that we can't really have that as a center, right? I mean, this guy's 7 feet tall, and he can't get a rebound sometimes. Like, I'm just like watching this man. He can't get a rebound. He misses a bunch of baskets um, from the paint. And yeah, he does have a pretty good field goal percentage. He does have some games where he shot really well, but other games he just shoots abysmal. And it's not like there's like somebody on him. So like sometimes he's just missing a wide open shots that you shouldn't really be missing at 7 foot. I mean, obviously occasionally it's gonna happen, but it happens to a little bit too frequently with DeAndre Ayton. But I think a good player that the Lakers could get for DeAndre Ayton would be somebody like Dante DiVincenzo. I mean, his hustle, his skill set is, I think, it's very underrated. One of the things that the Lakers really lack as of right now is you having like a perimeter defender, and I think Dante DiVincenzo can do a good job with that. I mean, yeah, obviously without DeAndre Ayton, the Lakers wouldn't really have a really great center, but I think Jackson Hayes is very capable of filling that role because last year when I watched Jackson Hayes in the playoffs, he actually did play pretty well at certain aspects of the game. I feel like if he can kind of get it cleaned up, but he's still young. I think Jackson Hayes has a lot more potential than what people think. So that's what I'm going for as my second trade.
Yeah, the Lakers definitely do need Ayton to step up his play if they want to make a run. Because they brought him in expecting him to be this double double guy, and he is only averaging 13 and 8. So they definitely need to either replace him or he has to start playing better. For my second trade, I'm also gonna mention another Knicks trade here. I like DeMar DeRozan to the Knicks. Now, I feel like a lot of people have kind of forgot about DeMar DeRozan. He is 36 years old, so obviously his last couple playing years are coming to an end here. I wouldn't be surprised if he retires maybe after next year or 2 more years or something like that. But he's still averaging 19 points a game, 3 rebounds, and 4 assists, which honestly would be a really nice piece that the Knicks could add because Josh Hart is not a scorer. OG Anunoby is not a scorer. The only two scorers they have really on their team are Cat and Brunson. So I think adding DeMar DeRozan would give this offense another guy that they can go to. And I know DeMar DeRozan is not a three-point shooter, but still, I mean, he's 36 years old and he's averaging 19 points a game, which is super solid. You mentioned Dante DiVincenzo. I think they could give up a guy like that and maybe a first or something like that. I don't know how much value DeMar DeRozan really holds at 36 years old, but the Kings are awful, so they certainly do not need him. I think they would. I think it would make sense to deal DeRozan to a contender and bring in some younger assets for that team because I think they need to rebuild. I think the Kings really don't have a whole lot of assets outside of Sabonis and Levine. So I don't think DeMar DeRozan really holds a lot of value for them at this point. And, averaging 19 points is definitely something that the Knicks would really need because outside of Cat and Brunson, I don't think OG Anunoby and Josh Hart can really count on them. You can't really count on them offensively. So whether it's DeMar DeRozan or somebody else, I think the Knicks definitely need to get like a 15 point per game scorer or 14 points per game scorer. I know Jordan Clarkson is pretty good off the bench, but I think they need a better player than him to really give them some more offense. Because if Brunson goes down with an injury or Cat gets hurt, and they're not going to make it out of the first round, I don't think. So, obviously there's some other guys around the league that could also be traded to the Knicks besides DeRozan, but he's just a guy that comes to mind to me because his entire career, this guy is a straight up scorer. He's an elite mid range shooter. He's really good inside the paint. Obviously, I mentioned that he's not a great 3-point shooter, but I think if he can average 15 or 14 or 16 or something, a number like that on the Knicks, then they definitely can make the finals. So that's going to be my second trade. I definitely don't think it would be a bad move for the Knicks. I know he's 36 years old, but considering how great of an offensive player he is, I would definitely think that would be a really quality move for the Knicks.
Yeah, so for my third trade, I'm gonna go sending DeAndre Ayton out. I think a player that obviously I think this player is gonna be really hard to get. I'm gonna go Bam Adebayo from the Miami Heat. I think the Lakers could really use somebody like Bam. Obviously, he would fill, what's his name, DeAndre Ayton's role. Obviously, the Lakers are really gonna have to give up something. As far as I know, as of right now, the Lakers don't really have any good draft picks for the next couple years, right? I mean, they traded a lot away. If you remember a couple years back when they traded for Westbrook and they did all this stuff, so they've kind of been in like draft pick debt recently, right? They don't really have much to trade. I mean, I feel like the only way that they could get a player like Bam Adebayo is by trading Austin Reeves. Now you're kind of thinking, okay, can LeBron and Luca handle the scoring by themselves, right? Because Bam's gonna get you a good 15, maybe 15 to 20 points a
I
game,
think
right?
more. I
I'd
think
say.
more. Yeah.
Well, no, I'm saying like with Luca and LeBron on the team, like because they're ball dominant players, right? So, but yeah, I'd say like Adebayo could get you 20 a game, maybe get you like 8 to 10 rebounds, maybe like 2 to 4 assists, right? I mean, I feel like that's all the Lakers need, right? And obviously, Bam's gonna play really good defense because I think the Lakers, at least offensively, are capable of keeping up with a lot of teams. It's just that they play no defense, so they have to virtually play perfect on offense to actually be able to win games, and that's just not sustainable in the NBA, right? They're gonna have to play some sort of defense. I mean, Austin Reeves doesn't really play that much defense, if we're being completely honest. So it wouldn't be the worst loss for the Lakers because now they got somebody who can obviously not score as well as Austin Reeves, but can put up good amount of points, can get rebounds, get offensive rebounds. Um, and again, like I still don't really understand why the Lakers put themselves in a situation looking at DeAndre Ayton's history, because I mean this man's like a walking triple single. It's he just he has his moments, right? I think he's still a good player, but there's just some aspects of him that are they almost look unfixable because he's been in the league for what like 5 years now, 5 or 6 years.
I think like he
Maybe
was the number
longer.
one pick in 2018. I think so.
Oh, okay, wow, okay. Because I think it
Yeah,
was
I think
pre-COVID when they
7
made
years.
that run, right, with the Suns.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's it's been too long for this man to not really fix his ways, right? Of being lazy on defense. He's got the talent. There's no question. This man's 7 feet tall. He can move pretty fast. He can score, but he just plays so lazy that he doesn't do those things. And you can't win a championship with lazy people on your team, right? I mean, everybody's got
Exactly.
to have some sort of drive to go and win. Like you got to have like almost like a chip on your shoulder, right? So, I mean, obviously LeBron and Luca are like that. AR I think is a pretty good player, and
Yep.
obviously he also plays like he has a chip on his shoulder because especially in clutch moments, Austin Reeves is definitely a great player. So that's the only thing that makes me somewhat skeptical on him being traded. But I do think the Lakers really need to make a move at center for somebody because I don't think that they're a championship caliber team at this given moment.
Yeah, I agree. My next trade, my final trade, I think Jonathan Kuminga's talent is definitely being wasted on Golden State. They're not playing him. Steve Kerr just refuses to play this guy for some reason. So I think a trade at the deadline is definitely needed for this guy because he's too talented of a player to be riding the bench. So, I think a team that really makes sense to trade for Kuminga is the Phoenix Suns. Now, I think a lot of people have kind of underestimated Phoenix so far this year. They're good. I think they're around 10 games over 500. So, they have a shot to make a run here. And, especially after dealing Kevin Durant and, acquiring Dylan Brooks and Dylan Green, I don't think anybody really counted the Suns in this year. Everyone thought they were going to get worse. But if anything, they're better. So I think adding Jonathan Kuminga would definitely upgrade them at power forward. They have some assets. Royce O'Neal, Jordan Goodwin's been playing very, very well off the bench this year for them. They have some picks. I think he package a couple of those guys together. I think that would be enough for Golden State to say sure. Especially because Jonathan Kuminga is not providing any value for the Warriors right now. I mean, this is a guy that's averaging 12 points and 6 rebounds in only like about 20 minutes a game. In the games that he has played. So I think he could definitely provide Phoenix with, even if he doesn't start. I mean, I think he could definitely provide Phoenix with a spark. Because every time I watch Jonathan Kuminga play, he's always getting involved on the court. Like, every time I look at a Warriors box score and he does play, I see Kuminga have like 15, 18 points. So he's got talent, obviously. I think Phoenix could definitely develop him even more than Golden State has. Um, so I think a move to the Suns would definitely make a lot of sense. I know there's some other teams that definitely might look into Kuminga, but he's simply just not playing. So, and he's also expressed that he wants out of Golden State because I know he had that contract issue in the offseason. They didn't want to pay him. So, um, when you look at the trade deadline, I think the Warriors are definitely a team that's going to make some noise, especially after watching Jimmy Butler go down. They're not going to contend without a second guy. So, obviously, it's unfortunate that, Jimmy had to go down with that ACL tear, which is absolutely gut wrenching for Warriors fans. But I think a move is definitely needed. Steph Curry definitely needs a second guy on that team if they want a chance to even win a playoff series. I know they have some pieces. Moses Moody, Buddy Hield, Gary Payton. Draymond's old. I don't think this Warriors team really has enough talent to make a run in the playoffs. So obviously, you mentioned that they could trade for Giannis, which would absolutely shake up the league. But Jonathan Kuminga is rotting on their bench, so I think a trade for him is definitely needed. And I think Phoenix is the perfect fit because Phoenix is good right now, but I think if people want to actually consider them real contenders, I think acquiring Kuminga would definitely boost their offense and boost their defense. And I think he would definitely provide them with, another guy to go to score outside of Devin Booker and, Dylan Brooks, who's been playing very, very well this year. So those are going to be my three trades. Obviously, you never know what's going to happen at the trade deadline. Obviously, there's all these crazy moves that happen every year. But I think a couple of those guys that I mentioned definitely will be traded. I think Kuminga definitely gets traded. I think, now that we know Giannis wants out, I think Giannis gets moved to somebody. And obviously, I mentioned DeMar DeRozan earlier, which I know is kind of a sleeper, but I think he's another guy that could be traded. So, I'm looking forward to, what kind of big moves we see in the coming weeks. I guess the deadline is, I think, the 5th or the 4th, or, a day around there. But, yeah, I think those trades definitely would shake up the league and, add some more talent to some contending teams that really need it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that. Just one last thing before we end it. Do you think that Jonathan Kuminga could be used to kind of trade for Giannis?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, Jonathan Kuminga is a young player. He's only 23 years old. So I think adding him in a Giannis trade definitely makes a lot of sense, especially because when you look at the Warriors team on paper, they don't really have a whole lot of pieces I think the Bucks would really be interested in, because obviously you're going to have to give up a lot for Giannis, and I think a lot of that trade would have, I think a lot of picks would be involved in that trade. But for sure, Jonathan Kuminga is definitely a guy you can add in that trade. I think Moses Moody, Will Richard, who they drafted this offseason out of Florida, I think he definitely would be involved in that trade. But yeah, I think if the Warriors are going to make a Giannis trade, Kuminga has to be involved.
Okay, well, that's I was kind of thinking that too, but just wanted to hear your opinion on it. But that should be all for this video. You guys should like and subscribe if you enjoy this content. We're gonna be having a few
Super Bowl
around
video.
2 videos at least every week. We're also gonna be posting shorts and stuff. Next week's gonna be a little bit busier schedule because we're gonna have the Super Bowl and stuff. Maybe we could get a guest or two on. So until then, goodbye.